Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Today, I want to talk about a mindset, a philosophy, and a commitment to self-respect and personal power. In relationships, whether they're romantic, familial, or professional, it's easy to lose sight of our own worth. The world often tells us that we should chase after validation, beg for affection, text endlessly to prove we care, or play emotional games to keep things exciting. But what if I told you that the most profound way to love and respect yourself and others is to set clear boundaries and operate from a place of confidence? Not need self-worth is the foundation of everything we do. It's the lens through which we view ourselves. And it shapes the way we interact with the world. But here's the truth, your self-worth is not dependent on external factors. It's not dependent on whether someone loves you, whether you get that promotion, or whether you receive validation from your social circle. Self-worth is non-negotiable because it is inherent in who you are as a person. Too often, we place our sense of worth in the hands of others. We look to partners, friends, or even colleagues to define our value. We may feel good when someone praises us or when we're treated with respect. But what happens when that praise or respect isn't given? What happens when someone doesn't recognize our worth? We begin to question ourselves, to doubt our abilities, and ultimately our worth. We may start to beg for approval, chase after people who don't treat us well, or engage in behaviors that erode our self-esteem, all in an effort to get that external validation. But true self-worth doesn't waver based on external circumstances. It's a recognition that we are valuable simply because we exist. We don't need to do anything extra, act in a certain way, or beg for acknowledgement in order to be worthy. Our worth isn't earned through actions, accomplishments, or external validation. It's inherent in who we are as human beings. The moment we understand this, we free ourselves from the exhausting cycle of seeking validation and approval from others. When we operate from a place of true self-worth, we stop making ourselves small in order to make others feel comfortable. We stop minimizing our needs, desires, and boundaries for fear of being rejected. We stop tolerating toxic behavior or settling for less than we deserve simply because we believe we have to earn love or respect. Instead, we stand in our own power, knowing that we are worthy of love, respect, and care simply because we exist. But it's not always easy to maintain this mindset. Society tells us that our value is determined by how much we can do for others, how much we can achieve, or how we compare to those around us. Social media, for example, constantly bombards us with images of success, beauty, and perfection, making us feel like we're falling short. In such a culture, it's easy to start believing that we need to earn our worth, or that our worth is something that can be negotiated. That's why it's so crucial to consciously and intentionally choose to embrace our worth. It starts with recognizing that we don't need to prove ourselves to anyone. We don't need to constantly seek external validation. Our worth is non-negotiable, and the more we internalize this truth, the less we will tolerate behaviors or relationships that seek to undermine it. When we acknowledge that our self-worth is non-negotiable, we begin to show up in the world with a sense of confidence and authenticity. We stop seeking permission to take up space or to stand up for ourselves. We stop apologizing for our presence, for our needs, or for our desires. Instead, we embrace them as a natural part of who we are. It's important to remember that self-worth is not arrogance. Recognizing your inherent value isn't about inflating your ego or belittling others. It's about having a healthy understanding of who you are and where your value comes from. When we know our worth, we no longer feel the need to prove ourselves. We stop competing for love or attention. We stop playing games or waiting for others to validate us. Instead, we become more aligned with our true selves, living authentically and unapologetically. We set boundaries that protect our well-being and honor our needs. We choose relationships that uplift us rather than drain us. We stop chasing after approval because we know that we don't need it. We stop begging for affection or attention because we know that we are worthy of those things without having to earn them. The truth is, when we honor our self-worth, we create a space for healthier, more fulfilling relationships. When we value ourselves, we teach others to do the same. We set a standard of mutual respect and care. People who truly respect us will recognize that we will not tolerate being treated poorly, and they will rise to the occasion. And they will rise to the occasion. And those who don't respect us or who seek to undermine our worth will naturally fall away. So let me say this again, your self-worth is non-negotiable. It's not something you need to prove, earn, or chase after. It's not dependent on how others treat you or what you achieve. It is a fundamental truth that you are valuable simply because you exist. When you truly embrace this, you stop looking for validation from the outside world. You stop giving away your power to people or situations that don't honor your worth. You stop shrinking to fit in, and you start showing up as the full, authentic version of yourself. And in doing so, you attract the relationships, experiences, and opportunities that align with your true value. Remember, you are enough. You are worthy. And that worth is non-negotiable. Healthy relationships are built on mutual effort. When we think about healthy relationships, one of the core principles that often comes to mind is the idea of mutual effort. This doesn't just mean the occasional nice gesture or an "I'll do this for you when I have time" attitude. It means showing up for each other consistently, understanding the needs of both parties, and working together to nurture the relationship. Mutual effort is the foundation that holds everything together. It's what transforms a relationship from something casual or superficial into something deeply meaningful and sustainable. At the heart of any healthy relationship, whether romantic, familial, or friendship, both people must be actively engaged in the relationship. This means contributing your time, energy, emotions, and resources equally, but it doesn't necessarily mean that each person gives in exactly the same way or at exactly the same time. What matters is that the effort is balanced over the long term and that both people are invested in supporting and caring for each other. 1. Mutual respect for time and priorities. Mutual effort begins with mutual respect. It starts with respecting each other's time, values, and priorities. In healthy relationships, both individuals understand that the other has commitments outside the relationship, whether they're work, family, hobbies, or personal goals. This respect means not expecting the other person to drop everything for you at a moment's notice, nor demanding that they prioritize you over their own needs or responsibilities. Instead, mutual effort is about being intentional with the time you share. It means planning moments together, respecting each other's space, and finding ways to support one another's individual journeys without making the relationship feel like a competition for attention. Both people make time for the relationship, even in the midst of busy lives, and they honor each other's needs without resentment. 2. Emotional investment. In a relationship where mutual effort is present, emotional investment is just as important as physical or material contributions. It's about being present when your partner or loved one needs to talk, listening actively, and offering emotional support when times are tough. This type of emotional effort isn't about fixing the other person's problems or always knowing what to say. It's about being there, showing empathy, and validating their feelings. Mutual emotional effort also means being vulnerable with each other, expressing your own emotions, needs, and challenges. It's about creating an environment where both individuals feel safe to be open and honest without fear of judgment or criticism. When both partners contribute emotionally, the relationship becomes a space of trust and understanding where both people feel valued and heard. 3. Shared responsibilities. Another crucial aspect of mutual effort is the sharing of responsibilities. In a healthy relationship, both people contribute to the practical aspects of life, whether it's taking care of household tasks, managing finances, planning events, or providing physical or emotional care when one person is going through a difficult time. These responsibilities should be shared in a way that feels balanced and fair to both parties. It's not about keeping score or counting who did what, but about both individuals taking ownership of the relationship and its dynamics. When both people contribute equally to the relationship, it helps prevent feelings of resentment or burnout. No one person should feel like they're carrying the weight of the entire relationship, nor should they feel like they're expected to do everything. Instead, each partner works together to create a shared space that is sustainable and fulfilling for both. Or supporting growth and change. A healthy relationship is also built on mutual effort when it comes to personal growth and change. Both people in a relationship should support each other's evolution and development, whether that means career advancements, learning new skills, or evolving as individuals. This support is not only about cheering each other on, but also about providing constructive feedback and encouragement, especially when the road gets tough. Mutual effort in growth means being open to changes that happen over time, understanding that people evolve, interests shift, and life circumstances change. A healthy relationship can thrive through these shifts when both people are committed to growing together, adapting to new phases of life, and maintaining an open dialogue about how they can best support each other. 5. Communication and conflict resolution. Effective communication is one of the most significant ways mutual effort shows up in relationships. It's not enough to just speak. Both partners need to listen actively and respectfully. Communication isn't just about talking about the good stuff, it's about addressing challenges and conflicts in a healthy way. This involves not only listening to the other person's perspective, but also acknowledging their feelings, taking responsibility for your own actions, and working together toward a resolution. Conflict is inevitable in any relationship, but how you handle it determines the strength of the connection. In relationships where mutual effort is present, both people are committed to resolving issues in a way that respects the other person's emotions and needs. There's no place for manipulation, avoidance, or emotional withdrawal. Instead, there's a willingness to engage openly, address concerns, and find solutions together. 6. Consistency over time. Mutual effort doesn't just appear in big gestures, it's about consistent, small acts of love, respect, and care over time. These small efforts build the foundation of a strong relationship. It might be as simple as checking in with a partner after a long day, sharing a quiet moment together, offering a kind word of encouragement, or doing something thoughtful without being asked. It's about showing up day in and day out in ways that demonstrate your commitment to the relationship. Over time, these small, consistent acts of mutual effort build trust and deepen the bond. It's the consistency of these efforts, not just the grand moments, that form the fabric of a lasting, healthy relationship. The power of reciprocity. The beauty of mutual effort is that it's reciprocal. When both people are committed to putting in the work, the relationship feels balanced and both partners benefit. It's not about one person doing all the giving while the other does all the taking. Instead, it's about each person contributing their unique strengths and resources to create something that is greater than the sum of its parts. When mutual effort is present, there's a natural flow and exchange that sustains the relationship. Both people feel valued, supported, and understood. The relationship becomes a partnership rather than a series of isolated interactions, and this sense of shared responsibility fosters deeper intimacy, trust, and connection. In conclusion, healthy relationships are not passive, they require active participation from both individuals. Mutual effort is about investing in the connection you share, understanding that both people have unique needs and contributions to make. It's about being present, communicating openly, and supporting one another through life's ups and downs. When both partners are committed to putting in the effort, the relationship becomes a true partnership, one that is fulfilling, balanced, and resilient. Mutual effort isn't just the work you put in, it's the love and care you share consistently over time. And it's this effort that builds the foundation for a lasting, meaningful relationship. Authentic communication is key. At the heart of every meaningful relationship lies the ability to communicate authentically. Communication is the bridge that connects us with others, allowing us to share our thoughts, emotions, desires, and needs. But authentic communication goes beyond just exchanging words. It's about creating a space where both parties feel truly heard, understood, and valued. It's about breaking through the surface level conversations and delving deeper into the things that really matter, fostering vulnerability and openness. When we talk about authentic communication, we're referring to a way of connecting that is grounded in honesty, transparency, and respect. It's the kind of communication that doesn't hold back, doesn't hide behind masks, and doesn't play games. It's about being real not only with the other person, but also with ourselves. 1. Honesty and vulnerability. Authentic communication begins with honesty. It's about sharing what's on our minds, even when the subject feels difficult or uncomfortable. Honesty allows us to express ourselves clearly and without fear of judgment. But honesty alone isn't enough. It must be coupled with vulnerability. Vulnerability means allowing ourselves to be seen as we truly are, without armor or pretense. It's about showing the parts of ourselves that are raw, imperfect, and real, our fears, hopes, desires, and even our mistakes. Being vulnerable in communication is a powerful act. It's not about oversharing or revealing too much too soon. It's about knowing what is true for us in a given moment and expressing it without fear of rejection. When we communicate authentically, we allow others to see us in our entirety, not just the polished, ideal version we sometimes try to present, but the whole messy, beautiful truth of who we are. This fosters a deeper sense of connection, because when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, it invites the other person to do the same. 2. Active listening. Authentic communication is a two-way street. While expressing ourselves honestly is important, so is listening actively. Active listening is not just about hearing the words someone else is saying, but about truly understanding them. It requires focus, empathy, and patience. It means putting aside our own thoughts, distractions, and judgments in order to fully listen and absorb what the other person is trying to communicate. In authentic communication, listening is as important as speaking. It means hearing not just the words, but also the emotions and intentions behind them. It's about understanding the speaker's perspective, validating their feelings, and responding with empathy. By practicing active listening, we honor the other person's voice and allow them to feel seen and heard. This encourages more open and honest communication in return. 3. Expressing needs clearly. One of the cornerstones of authentic communication is the ability to express our needs clearly. Whether it's in a romantic relationship, friendship, or professional setting, we all have emotional, physical, and psychological needs. Often, these needs go unspoken because we fear being perceived as needy or vulnerable, or because we believe others should already know what we need. However, unspoken needs create misunderstandings, resentment, and frustration. Authentic communication means expressing our needs directly and respectfully, without assuming that others can read our minds. This might involve saying, "I need some time alone to recharge," or "I would appreciate it if you could help me with this project," or even "I'm feeling upset about something and I need to talk about it." When we clearly communicate our needs, we allow the other person the opportunity to meet those needs, which creates a deeper sense of mutual respect and understanding. Or transparency and trust. Authentic communication builds trust. When we are open and transparent with others, we demonstrate that we trust them with our thoughts, feelings, and experiences. We are telling them that we believe they can handle the truth of who we are. And in doing so, we invite them to trust us as well. Trust is the glue that holds relationships together, and it is built on the consistency of open, honest, and transparent communication. When we withhold information, avoid tough conversations, or mislead others, we create walls between ourselves and the people we care about. These walls prevent intimacy and understanding. In contrast, when we practice authentic communication by being honest about our feelings, by expressing our concerns and desires, and by showing transparency in our words and actions, we create an environment where trust can grow. Trust, once established, allows for greater emotional intimacy and strengthens the bond in any relationship. 5. Conflict resolution with respect. Authentic communication also plays a crucial role in conflict resolution. Disagreements and conflicts are inevitable in any relationship, but how we handle them makes all the difference. Authentic communication ensures that we approach conflicts with respect, empathy, and a willingness to find common ground. Instead of resorting to passive-aggressive behavior, defensive reactions, or avoidance, authentic communication calls for us to express our concerns openly and without hostility. It encourages us to say things like, "I feel hurt by what you said," or "I need help understanding your perspective on this issue." It also means listening to the other person's point of view, even if we disagree, and striving to reach a resolution that respects both parties' needs. Conflict, when addressed authentically, can be an opportunity for growth and deeper connection. It allows both people to clarify misunderstandings, express their feelings honestly, and work together to strengthen the relationship. 6. Nonverbal communication. Authentic communication goes beyond words. Nonverbal cues like body language, facial expressions, and tone of voice play a huge role in how we communicate. Often, our words may say one thing, but our body language communicates something entirely different. Authentic communication involves aligning both verbal and nonverbal expressions. It's about making eye contact, maintaining an open posture, and using a tone of voice that matches the intention behind our words. When our nonverbal communication is consistent with what we say, it builds authenticity and trust. People can feel whether we are being genuine or not, and when our actions and words align, we create a space where honesty can flourish. On the flip side, when there's a disconnect between what we say and how we act, it can lead to confusion and mistrust. 7. Maintaining boundaries. A critical aspect of authentic communication is respecting boundaries, both our own and others. Communication about boundaries is essential for maintaining healthy relationships. Authentic communication allows us to express our limits in a respectful way, and it allows others to do the same. It's not about being rigid or inflexible, but about being clear on what feels comfortable and safe for us, and acknowledging the same for others. When we are able to communicate our boundaries openly, we set the stage for deeper respect and trust. We don't have to apologize for having boundaries. Instead, we can express them confidently, knowing that they are vital to our well-being and the health of the relationship. In conclusion, authentic communication is the cornerstone of any healthy, meaningful relationship. It requires honesty, vulnerability, active listening, and transparency. It means being open about our feelings, expressing our needs clearly, and resolving conflicts with respect and understanding. It's about aligning our words and actions to create an atmosphere of trust and mutual respect. At its core, authentic communication is about showing up as our true selves without pretense, without games, and without fear. When we communicate authentically, we build relationships that are real, resilient, and rooted in deep connection. It allows us to bridge the gaps that often separate us and to build relationships that are not just surface level, but truly intimate and fulfilling. Embrace vulnerability, not games. In a world where self-protection and emotional armor are often seen as signs of strength, the idea of embracing vulnerability can feel counterintuitive, even risky. Yet, true emotional connection and meaningful relationships are built on the foundation of vulnerability, not on playing games or holding back our true selves. Vulnerability means showing up as who we truly are, open, imperfect, and authentic without trying to manipulate, control, or hide behind walls. Games, on the other hand, are strategies people use to protect themselves from emotional risk, often driven by fear or insecurity. While they may provide temporary relief or excitement, they prevent real intimacy and growth. In the context of relationships, whether romantic, friendships, or professional connections, the choice between vulnerability and games is crucial. Vulnerability is the gateway to deeper understanding and connection, while playing games such as withholding affection, pretending to be someone you're not, or engaging in manipulative behavior keeps us stuck in superficial, unfulfilling dynamics. 1. Vulnerability is the path to authentic connection. At the heart of every meaningful relationship is the willingness to be vulnerable. Vulnerability allows us to let down our guard and show the other person who we truly are. When we open ourselves up, whether through sharing our feelings, fears, hopes, or dreams, we invite others to see us for who we are, not the version we think they want to see. This transparency fosters true intimacy. When we embrace vulnerability, we create an environment where both people feel safe to express themselves freely, knowing they won't be judged, ridiculed, or rejected. Vulnerability is not about weakness or insecurity, rather, it's about courage. It's the courage to show up as our authentic selves, to share our true thoughts and feelings, and to trust that the other person will respond with care, empathy, and respect. In doing so, vulnerability deepens the bond between people, allowing for stronger, more resilient relationships. 1. Vulnerability is the path to authentic connection. At the heart of every meaningful relationship is the willingness to be vulnerable. Vulnerability allows us to let down our guard and show the other person who we truly are. When we open ourselves up, whether through sharing our feelings, fears, hopes, or dreams, we invite others to see us for who we are, not the version we think they want to see. This transparency fosters true intimacy. When we embrace vulnerability, we create an environment where both people feel safe to express themselves freely, knowing they won't be judged, ridiculed, or rejected. Vulnerability is not about weakness or insecurity, rather, it's about courage. It's the courage to show up as our authentic selves, to share our true thoughts and feelings, and to trust that the other person will respond with care, empathy, and respect. In doing so, vulnerability deepens the bond between people, allowing for stronger, more resilient relationships. 2. Games keep us guarded and distrustful. On the other hand, games in relationships often arise from a place of fear, self-doubt, and insecurity. These games might take the form of playing hard to get, withholding affection, creating mystery for the sake of intrigue, or manipulating someone's feelings to gain an advantage. While these strategies may offer a temporary sense of control or excitement, they ultimately create distance, confusion, and distrust. When we engage in games, we are not being truthful about who we are or what we want. We hide behind personas, pretending to be someone we're not, or distorting the truth to protect ourselves from potential rejection or hurt. But this is a false protection. It may seem safer in the short term, but over time it only deepens feelings of loneliness, frustration, and uncertainty. Games create emotional walls that prevent us from truly connecting with others, leaving us trapped in cycles of insecurity and unmet needs. The more we play games, the more we distance ourselves from the vulnerability that is needed for a genuine connection. And ultimately, this leaves us feeling isolated and misunderstood. Instead of fostering trust, games breed uncertainty. Instead of growing the relationship, they stunt it. Vulnerability, on the other hand, opens the door to growth, compassion, and mutual understanding. 3. Vulnerability builds trust and emotional safety. In relationships where vulnerability is embraced, trust is able to flourish. Trust is built when both parties feel they can be open and honest with each other without fear of rejection, judgment, or manipulation. Vulnerability creates a safe space where each person can express their true feelings, desires, and fears, knowing the other will honor and respect them. When we are vulnerable, we signal to others that we trust them with our hearts and act that encourages them to trust us in return. In turn, this mutual trust strengthens the bond between people, making the relationship more resilient in the face of challenges or conflicts. Games, by contrast, undermine trust because they create uncertainty. If we're constantly unsure whether someone is being truthful or sincere, it's difficult to trust them fully. When we play games, we inadvertently teach the other person not to trust us, which can create a cycle of miscommunication and emotional distance. 4. Vulnerability leads to personal growth and empowerment. While embracing vulnerability may initially feel uncomfortable, it is ultimately a powerful path to personal growth and empowerment. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we practice the art of being true to ourselves, regardless of external expectations or societal pressures. This authenticity frees us from the need for approval, validation, or manipulation, and it allows us to connect with others from a place of self-assurance. Furthermore, vulnerability enables us to process and heal from past emotional wounds. By confronting our fears, insecurities, and past experiences, we learn to embrace our imperfections and grow stronger. This empowerment stems from the realization that we don't need to play games to be loved, accepted, or valued. Our worth comes from being who we are, not from performing or pretending to be someone else. 5. Vulnerability enhances communication and connection. At its core, vulnerability enriches communication by encouraging open, honest dialogue. In an environment where vulnerability is welcomed, communication is not a game of keeping score or playing strategic moves. It's an exchange of thoughts, feelings, and perspectives that fosters mutual understanding. When we communicate vulnerably, we are more likely to ask for what we need, express how we feel, and respond with empathy and compassion. Moreover, embracing vulnerability means being present in the moment without distractions or pretenses. Instead of trying to impress or manipulate others, we engage with them in a way that reflects our true selves. This type of communication fosters deeper emotional connections, allowing both people to feel seen, heard, and valued. 6. Vulnerability creates deeper, more meaningful relationships. Ultimately, vulnerability paves the way for deeper, more meaningful relationships. It allows both individuals to show up authentically, let down their defenses, and engage in a way that is grounded in mutual respect and understanding. When we choose vulnerability over games, we choose to invest in relationships that are real and fulfilling. This kind of connection is not only more satisfying, but also more enduring. Vulnerable relationships are more likely to weather the storms of life because they are built on a foundation of trust, empathy, and shared vulnerability. Whether it's a romantic partner, a friend, or a colleague, when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we give the other person the opportunity to do the same. This creates a reciprocal flow of emotional intimacy, care, and support elements that make relationships resilient and lasting. In conclusion, choosing to embrace vulnerability instead of playing games is an act of courage, authenticity, and emotional intelligence. Vulnerability invites connection, fosters trust, and deepens relationships in a way that games never can. By showing up as our true selves, we create space for real intimacy, understanding, and growth. We stop relying on manipulation or emotional games to create excitement or security, and instead we build relationships based on mutual respect, openness, and care. So rather than hiding behind walls of protection or pretending to be someone we're not, let's choose vulnerability. Let's choose to show up authentically in our relationships, trusting that the real connections we build are far more rewarding and lasting than any game could ever be. As we reflect on the power of embracing vulnerability. Rather than playing games, we realize that the deepest, most fulfilling relationships are the ones built on authenticity, trust, and mutual understanding. Vulnerability allows us to connect with others on a level that goes beyond surface interactions. It creates the space for real intimacy, emotional safety, and growth. When we choose to show up as our true selves without fear or pretense, we invite others to do the same. And in that shared authenticity, we find not only connection, but also strength to weather challenges, to embrace imperfections, and to nurture relationships that are not just fleeting, but lasting. So let's move away from the games, the walls, and the masks. Let's dare to be vulnerable, to be real, and to embrace the beauty of authentic connection. Because when we do, we open ourselves to a life of deeper, richer, and more meaningful relationships. Thank you.